Hey, good evening, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter Live. And tonight we have darling Nikki. She's back, as well as Silke, who is our guest co-host tonight. Give us some insight on the topic of our show. Topic of our show tonight is blacks traveling abroad. Silke, who is doing some traveling now on business, and darling Nikki here, just got back from doing some leisure traveling. This
Yes.
is why we didn't have a show last week. So, what's up, ladies?
Hey,
Thank you guys.
I'm
Everything
back.
good?
Yeah,
Everything
back and
good? You sure?
relaxed.
Oh, so you
Relaxed.
back? You relaxed? You
Yeah.
played in the sand a little bit? Did you make any sand castles or anything?
No, this time I didn't make any inappropriate sand sculptures like I normally do when I go out of camp.
So how was your trip?
It was really nice. It was relaxing. I think that I really needed it. I think that it's necessary. So I tried to take at least 4 a year. I took my second trip. Well, third.
That's
So
great. That's great. So I know that you wanted to. We decided that we would do this topic because we know that we are blacks are doing more traveling now, even in spite of the pandemic. Since everything opened back up, we're doing more traveling abroad now than ever.
hmm
And you're one person that has been a world traveler since you was a uh,
yeah.
little young lady, right?
Oh yeah. Got my first passport a little after one, maybe 1.5, 2. Yeah. So I'm
Great.
familiar with traveling. Um, my family is like one of those things you do naturally, I would say. And it's just something that we all do because we were exposed to it at an early age. So something that I think is necessary is something that I've actually put into my kids, the want and the need and to experience other cultures and other places and other foods. So yeah, just everything. I what do they call it? So they call it a wanderlust.
Yes,
Is it
Wonderlust.
wanderlust?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, that's what
I
it's
have
called.
to
It's a
take a look.
wanderlust.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
desire to explore the earth, explore the
right.
world. Right.
So Silka, you yourself, you do a lot of traveling, business and leisure as well, right?
I do, yeah. My business travel is domestic, however. So it's in the States, primarily in the Southeast, but also just all over the States. I live in Atlanta, but I'm currently in Miami for business. But my personal travel is heavy on the international. I do a lot of solo travel. I do a lot of travel with my daughter. My daughter's 13. She and I do mommy daughter trips every year. This year we went to Costa Rica. We've been to Jamaica. We've been to New Orleans. She also does the same thing with her father. So we just, yeah, it's yeah, I love to, explore the world with her, by myself, with friends, family. Yeah, it's a big part of who
So
I am.
let me ask you guys a question about traveling. Do you see the uptick in traveling? I guess Silka, you've been traveling for a while. Do you see the uptick of traveling with people of color? Like how we're
Definitely.
traveling more now, even domestic, we're traveling more. We're spending more time. We're just getting on that plane and going, and whether it's just a trip for a day or two, people are just getting up out of where their region.
Definitely. You see it on Instagram, on social media, there are trends too. Like last year, everyone was in Tulum. This year,
Right.
New York has been pretty heavy. So you definitely see the trends. There's definitely an uptick. During the pandemic, travel has gotten so hectic. Like the airports are
Mm-hmm.
packed. Rental
Mm-hmm.
cars are hard to come by. It's yeah, you definitely see the uptick in travel, and you see more people that look like you, no matter what part of the world you're in. You definitely see it.
Right.
Yeah, I
I
noticed
think.
that. I knew
You,
during the height of the pandemic that a lot of rental cars. What's happening is that they kind of like downsized because of the pandemic, and then it got hard once it finally opened back up. It was hard to get rental cars, and
Mhm.
it's funny because when I did some traveling in the summer, most people was like, "Why you ain't?" First of all, I didn't fly where I went,
Mm,
and most people was like, "Why you ain't fly?" I was like, "No, nah, I'm gonna drive." And when I drove to where I was going, I got a rental car that was local from a local enterprise rental cars. But when I got to Atlanta, most
Mhm.
people was like, "How you get a rental car?" I'm like, "It was easy. It wasn't no rental cars in Atlanta at the time."
mm,
But let me just read something to you guys. It says, uh, it was a report by the Mandela Research. It said the first phase of the report, released mid-November, analyzes black 48,000 black leisure travelers, as well as a 2020 survey of 200 members. According to the findings, Black Americans spent an estimated 109.4 billion on leisure travel in
Mhm.
2019,
Wow.
representing roughly 13.1% of the U.S. leisure travel market. Black Americans spent an estimated 63 billion in leisure travel in 2018, according to the study. So it shows from the study how each year is going up, and I
mm-hmm.
would assume with the pandemic it went down, and now it's going to continue to go up as more things start to open up, and then with
Right.
people being vaccinated. So tell me,
I, I
what did go ahead, Nikki?
I was gonna say, even with the pandemic, I'm gonna be very honest with you. Golden Silk and I, we traveled through the entire pandemic, and that's because they did put in precautions and things like that. And even at the beginning of the pandemic, we didn't even really know what was transpiring. We kind of got bits and pieces, but even at the beginning, we still were going. So I think that is important because I think one of the things that you were just saying, as far as like the Black community starting to travel more, I think one of the reasons why they are traveling more is because of social media. I think with social media, what's happening is they're seeing more than they probably have seen before. And, you see, and they have these groups, and, so between Instagram and Facebook and whatever, people are starting to say, hey, there are other parts of the world, that I haven't tapped into. And so I think with social media, that is one of the larger reasons why we're traveling more.
So let me ask you, ladies, first and foremost, we don't want to scare nobody. We want people to understand that traveling abroad, it like you two do it quite often, so it does have a tremendous benefit. Let's talk about the cost, because I think the cost may
Hmm.
scare a lot of people. Talk about the cost.
You want to
I
touch on it, Soka?
Yeah, because I don't. I think that's people say that, but they spend just as much money on a trip to Vegas. Probably Vegas is probably more, but a trip to Miami, Atlanta, Vegas, LA, DC, New York, you're going to spend the same amount of money, if not more, in some cases, than you would going to Greece or going to Africa, going to the Caribbean. you're going to spend the same amount of money, if not more. Number
Mm-hmm.
one, flights can be a little bit pricey, but there are tons of deals. So I think like avid travelers, one thing they do is they shop the price, not necessarily the destination. And I do that all the time. When I took my daughter to Costa Rica, I didn't know where we were going. I was like, we're going somewhere in January. I searched the flights, I looked at the COVID restrictions, and whatever made sense, where I could find the best flight deal and also had the most lenient COVID restrictions, that's where we ended up going. So I
Mm-hmm.
think we have to, number one, be open to just exploring wherever it takes us, wherever the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity takes us, be open to experience it and go there. And I definitely recommend shopping the deals. Shop the
Mm-hmm.
deals. Don't necessarily focus or just, have your heart set on just one particular destination. And that's a great way to find like ducked off, low key, dope destinations that you didn't
Yep.
think of to begin with.
Yep. And the other
Nikki,
thing is
Nikki, I
now
want you to
with
speak. I
I was
want you to
gonna
speak about Nikki the groups, how people have like group travel because I think that is kind of like why a lot of people are starting to do it. That helps. Like, look, it's
mm-hmm.
a group of us going. We got a package, a group of friends, and sometimes it don't even be friends. I seen two of my
Yeah.
friends were in a big group together, and I when they both put pictures on social media, I said, "Oh, I didn't know y'all know each other," and they didn't know each other. And I said, "Yo, get with such and such. She's part of your traveling party."
Mm-hmm.
I knew both of them, so I think that with the groups and talk about that, Nikki.
Well, I was talking to Silke about it earlier. So they have different groups, and I think what the groups do is they expose you to things, and it makes it a little bit easier sometimes because they'll do all the legwork. So if you go in the traveling group, sometimes they may have already had the place secured, or they may have the flight hookup, or the what is it, the Airbnbs. Sometimes they know if it's going to be a resort, if it's going to be all inclusive, all of the things that we typically don't want to do. And I think that's also another reason why at one point we didn't travel as much. I think all of those things, the groups cover it to make it a little easier. But there are pros and cons with the groups, I want to say, and you just have to make sure that you do your research before you join the individual groups, because you don't want to be in a group paying your money to somebody and not knowing who you're paying your money to or what it's going to, and then next thing you know you're out of your money and a trip. So there are definitely pros and cons to it.
And can I touch on that as well too? Because yeah, as Nikki mentioned, we were talking about this earlier. I think one of the pros of group travel is if you want to travel, you want to go to a destination, you plan it with your friends, your family, everyone drops out. You're the only one left who is planning to go, and you're left to go on your own or, find some other type of option. A lot of people don't want to solo travel. So the group travel is a great option for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it comes at a premium. Group travel is way more expensive than if you
Yes.
were to plan it yourself. They charge a premium for that. They make a profit off of it. Some
Mm-hmm.
people their livelihood. I definitely recommend doing your research on social media, following the group pages, seeing if you vibe with the people. All of them have different, um, you know, um, flavors and different like
Traveling styles.
traveling styles and just
Traveling
the
styles.
people
We like to call it traveling style.
and the people who attend these group trips. I will say I've never done a group trip. I was planning to go to Ghana with a very well known person in the Black community who was planning a trip to Ghana. They took a large deposit from me and then never got back to me. Like they just
Hmm.
never got back to me. And so luckily I was able to get my money back from reporting it to PayPal. But I've never done it, but I definitely see the benefit in it. I have friends who plan group travel trips, and but yeah, it definitely comes at a premium.
I
It's
like
it's
to say too with Silk, with Golden Silk, the one of the things with her, she is like in our family. So again, this is something that's natural to us. This is something that was inculcated in us. This is something that we naturally do, because this is what we were taught. I will say though, she's the one that would just go full throttle with it. Like I would too, but she just goes in, and so she'll do her research or know what she wants, and she definitely travels by herself. And so she'll say, okay, this is my destination. So some of the things that most people wouldn't be brave enough to do, she'll do it. And I think that's all about life and exploring it and being open to it. And So I think you have to also know what we just said is your traveling style, because groups may not be your traveling style, because if you're in a group, you got to kind of go along with what the group has going
So
on.
so let me ask you, Silka, average trip to Miami.
How much does it cost?
Yeah.
I don't even know, honestly.
The reason why, because I just want to tell everybody that if you're a coffee drinker and you like good coffee, you spending $5 a day on a good cup of coffee.
Right.
That's $150 a month, and
Even
basic.
more than that, like so I'm here for work. I just had dinner at my hotel room. It was over $100 for my dinner in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
If I were
Mm-hmm.
out of the country, it would be a fraction of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
When people go out in Miami, they're buying bottles, they're going to clubs, they're doing it's just way more expensive than nightlife and experiences abroad. So in my opinion, Vegas like is taxing. Like Vegas is so expensive. Like the meals, the entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
the shows that you go in, and you can't just enjoy the city. It's not like a city that you can just enjoy. You have to do all these things
Right.
to find some type of entertainment. So yeah, I think traveling domestically is definitely more expensive in a lot of cases than traveling abroad. But I wouldn't
Right.
even know how much it costs traveling to Miami. But I'm assuming like I mean it's thousands of dollars though. It's
Yeah.
No, I just brought up the coffee, because that's an aspect of saving. I think a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
we don't realize how much money that we actually blow every
Ben.
day on a day-to-day basis, and then we'll say, well, I can't afford to do this, I can't afford to do that. In
Right.
all actuality, we can.
Mm-hmm.
and we're
We
already doing
we
it.
we just don't prioritize what we think is important for us.
Right.
Let me ask you, Silka, do you feel like a mental difference when, like right now, you're in Miami taking care of business?
Mhm.
Do you feel like, I'm on a business now? You on a business trip, but do you feel like I'm on a business trip? I'm not here for pleasure
Oh
or
no, I have
leisure.
pleasure in everything I do. So I'm gonna enjoy myself, you know. I'm gonna stay where I want to stay, eat what I want to eat. So I definitely, even though it's a business trip, I still want to explore a little bit and have my own little time and do just carve out time for myself as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things, let's talk about, before we get to some meat and potatoes, because I know we got some meat and potatoes talking about international traveling and seeing an apple in your eye, so to say. Let's talk about traveling domestically with small children.
Mm.
Um, what's the pros and cons you guys would think with that?
That's on you.
With small children, I mean, shoot, I was a small child. You was traveling domestic. But I don't know. I mean, you were,
I know what you
I
mean.
don't see any cons. I just see it
Yeah.
as a benefit. Like Nikki mentioned. So we traveled a lot as a family. Like we still do as a family.
Right.
We do family trips where we get together, like all of our family from different parts of the country,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll get together. The kids love it. They're able to experience different places. Sometimes we drive, sometimes we fly. We just all make sure that we get there. I really don't see many cons in it.
Right.
You
Have
know,
you have you ever have you ladies ever put your kids on a plane by themselves?
I
my
grew up
daughter,
flying by myself.
my daughter does it
Yeah.
multiple times a
How did
month.
explain that experience? How did it feel the first time you ever did it?
I don't remember. I was so young. Like it's very vague. But back in the 80s, I'm telling my age. So back in the 80s, they used to put these wings on you and they put you up in the front with the stewardess, and you know, um they knew to make that connection because this is before cell phones. So, you have your wings on, you sit in the front, they know who to pass you off to. But this was something that was normal for me. I think now my daughters started traveling on their own as adults. And so I think when you have little bitty people like Silka's daughter, she flies here, you just have now it's easier because we do have the communication.
Mhm.
But years ago, I mean, I was on the flights by myself all just have my wings, sit in the front. They know this little girl's traveling by herself and they pass me right on along.
Yeah, it is easier now. I did it the first time when I was 12, I believe. I was around 12. Our grandfather I was meeting him somewhere, and I'm from a very small town in West Virginia, so it's like a non-existent airport. It was a tiny plane.
Yeah.
We had to like just stop at another airport, and like no one, I didn't know if I needed to get off or stay on. So it's a lot easier now than it was back.
Years ago.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't.
So let me ask you, as Silke, your oldest child is how old?
My daughter's 13. She's my only
Woo.
13.
So let me ask Nikki. Your children traveling as adults for the first time.
Hmm.
Explain the parent moment. Like, did you give them the riot act? Like, yo,
Oh
do
wow.
this, don't
So
do
they
this.
know. Silka knows about our. So my daughter is. We call her mini me. So she's just like Silka. So she's just very open to traveling. She does things by herself. I don't have to worry about it. So her first trip was right before the pandemic. She took a trip to Japan by herself, and she went for 2 weeks. And she took a backpack and one bag. I do not know how she did it. It it baffles everybody in the family, but she went for her first time. So yeah, probably about 3 years ago to Japan, and she had a layover in China. I think everybody was more nervous because the layover and the communication in China. But once she got to Japan, she had set it up herself. She had all of these because she has a friend in Japan. She set up all the different Airbnbs. So she went to the countryside of Japan. She was in the city, different cities in Japan. She rode the train. Like it was like second nature for her. And although we were worried, she just jumped right in there. And for her, it was normal. So she stayed at different Airbnb. She set that up. But I think the most mind-blowing part of her entire trip was that she took a book bag and like a cross thing. I don't know how she did it. And then she stayed, she had a layover. Now I think this is important to know too when you're traveling. A lot of times, if you're doing a layover, what my mom suggested, because my mom grew up traveling as well, she says, well, why don't you do your visa or something? She told her, she said, so when you're in China, you can just go ahead and see China, because she had a very long layover. So she could have gotten out and done things while she was in China. But instead, in true my child fashion, she slept in the airport. It was so funny. And so but you can, once you're in one country and you have these really long layovers, you can visit whatever country you're in on your layover.
Yeah, I
So
can.
So let me ask you, ladies. Now we're gonna talk about traveling abroad. Traveling abroad, age of social media. Everybody wants to let people know what they're doing, um, how they're quote unquote turning up. What would be you guys' advice? Would you advise, like, yo, let people know? Because you might be like, I'm traveling abroad, I'm put some pictures on my page, and next thing you know, somebody done broke in your house.
yeah, so I don't
Right.
know how people operate like that. Now I think that's one thing. It doesn't matter where you are. Like I think when you start letting people know that you're gone and where you're at and that type of thing, you have to be very specific about how you do that. Now that's a whole nother subject. But yeah, I don't think it's anything wrong with sharing. I mean, most people have alarms and security systems, and who cares? Just
And I
share. I
and,
think it's more
and I
important
know
to
I'm being a
share.
little dramatic when I say breaking your house, but I'm
I
just
know what you're saying, because that is a thought, but I think the most important thing is to share. I think that if we share our experiences, it opens the mind, to other, because a lot of times people, no one really thinks to say, okay, I'm gonna expose or my child to this, or I'm gonna go do this, and it's a lot to see, but um, most people, they say, don't move out. I saw a statistic some years ago. Most people don't even leave the hometown that they were raised in or born in. They stay there, and that's okay if that's what they choose to do. But I think the world is so vast and huge. Who For me, I mean, just the experience I had just recently, um, I made light of it on my social media page, but we were on a boat in Cabo, and I thought it was cute because a lot of times people don't have these experiences growing up, and we always say we were very fortunate. My grandfather, he went to over I thought it was 80, but my mom just said 60. But over to all these countries in these lands. So we knew about these things as a young child, where there be different animals, different continents. And he has been to every continent with the exception of Antarctica. So when we were in Cabo, one of the girls on the boat, this is a black girl, and it was so funny because she was like, it was a sea lion and it was resting on the rock. And she was like, "Oh, is that a seal?" And but just the fact that she was inquisitive and that she was open and that she was excited. How often do you get to ride a glass bottom boat and see sea lions and big huge rocks and beautiful water? So I think it's important for us to get out and to expose our children to these types of things, because the world is not just a box. It's not just the area that you live in.
So let me ask you, you guys, when you're traveling abroad, you're traveling. You went over there to have fun,
Hmm.
but you also got to keep your guard up. How
Definitely.
does how do you as women, how do
Hmm.
you guys balance that? How do you move, so to say? Give us some advice on how you move.
Talk
I'm
to
gonna
the
tell a
solo.
story. I'm gonna tell a story about you, Nikki. So the first time I did a solo trip, I went to Africa. I went to Africa. I was, of course, talking to my big cousin. She was prepping me, and she was like, "Don't wear anything. Like, don't bring any attention to yourself. Just wear regular plain clothes. Jeans, t-shirts. Just like be as regular as possible." So I was like, "Okay." I packed all these like t-shirts and jeans and sneakers, and I get over there. And the women in Africa are dripped down from head
Fly.
to toe. They
Fly.
have wigs, heels, jewelry, designer, everything. I was like, oh my God, I look like such a dork.
Be-
But, I was on point. I wasn't bringing extra attention to myself. And I think there are a lot of tools you can get. So they have the little fanny packs you can put under your clothes that you can put money and IDs and passports in. I always put money in lots of different places.
right.
So it definitely don't pull wad to cash out. You have to be careful. We're very reckless with our phones in the States, and they steal phones like crazy overseas,
Hmm.
no matter where you are. So don't just sit your phone down. Be careful if you're just like outside on the side of the street holding your phone, like hold it next to you, so somebody in a motorcycle won't just come and snatch it. Um,
Right.
I think it's just definitely be careful moving around at nighttime. When you solo travel, it's good to. Although one thing is, I find the most. I mean, we have to use our intuition, our discernment. I find the most trustworthy people when you travel, though, and you have to use your discernment. You have to know
Hmm.
like who you can trust and who you can't. I've probably done some things I shouldn't have done. I'm not even probably. I've definitely done some things I shouldn't have done, like meeting people and getting and going different places with them. But I've met like lifelong friends while traveling overseas. I think we can't we can get robbed. We can lose things. All these things can happen in the comfort of our hometown or wherever we live. So we just have to be open to the experience. And then it's like, okay, if something happens, it's just, as long as it's not like life threatening, but if someone steals something, you'll get it back. But
Hmm.
definitely be careful. Don't put everything in one place. Put a little bit of
Hmm.
money here, a little bit of money there. I remember I was in Uganda. I had money in my shoe and my bra and my like all different
Right.
places. Like so I think that's probably the biggest.
One of the things too with that, Silka, she's talking about money, but when you stay at different places, one of the things that we found, when we went to Jamaica, this is before passports were mandatory. A girlfriend of mine left her birth certificate. She left all of the items that she needed to get over to that country. She left them in her hotel room, in our resort room. So someone stole it. So there's someone else walking around with her entire identity because they have the safes in there. So I would suggest definitely using the safes.
Like, yeah,
Um, Keeping your passports on you at all times if you can. Just recently my mom, she bought this purse, and she has this purse where when you're traveling sometimes and they have it across your back or in your front, they can cut your purse and take your items. So she has a purse that she purchased where you can't cut it. So that was her thing. You can't cut it. So you just have to be cautious because you don't want to get over there and next thing you know, you can't, you got to go to the embassy and all your stuff is missing. So just be very cautious when you're traveling.
Nikki, what about what having the one sober in the party, having the one that got to be sober all the time? Do you recommend that?
Oh, definitely. I think that's even here when we're at home.
Yeah.
You always got to make sure you have one sober person, and then one person that's pretty level headed, I believe. But the greater thing is just doing your research. You gotta really do your research
What,
before
let
you.
me ask you, when you like Silka, you brought up you met some real good people traveling. How explain to us with that? Like yeah, you encounter people. They could be doing the same thing you're doing, tourists or business.
Mhm.
Um, but how do you know? And I'm not making it seem like traveling is just no different than meeting people out in the street every day. But how do you get? Is it a different way that you should gauge whether it could be somebody trying to get over on you, or just y'all just bumped into each other as a tourist?
I would say don't do anything you normally wouldn't do. Don't give anyone money. Don't trust them
Right,
with your any like important information like your passport or your credit cards or anything like that. And just also take the time and talk to people, get a feel of them.
hmm
Don't just automatically jump and do something. And then if you do it safely. Like maybe take separate cars. Like, okay, I can meet you, or I'll meet you for lunch or coffee tomorrow. Like you can do things that are safe. Like one friend I met in Uganda, actually we met on social media before I got there. And I was like, "Hey, I'm going to be here. Let's connect." And so we ended up going out multiple times while I was there. Another man I met at my hotel, and I met his girlfriend. We went to dinner, like we did lunch, and he introduced me to all different types of people. But I think it's important to really just just be discerning. Don't get blackout drunk in front of anybody. Like
right.
y'all mentioned, like a designated driver
No,
or
people want to turn up like this.
You
you can
you have to
turn.
be
What they
cautious.
say. I'm
No,
I'm 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 international. I'm going to
Mm-mm.
do my thing. Like nobody
Not
gonna know what I
smart.
did.
yeah, you got to be smart. Like if you do get blackout drunk, do it in your hotel lobby so you can stumble upstairs to your room.
Right,
Don't do
right.
it out somewhere with some strangers that you really don't know. So I think it's just important to like be smart. Like just think, don't be reckless, and don't do anything that you normally wouldn't do.
And one of the things that someone just mentioned is you can always go on the State Department website and you can see what's going on in that country at the time, because some countries they have civil war, they have different things going on. So go to the State Department website and find out what's going on, what code they're in. Is it a high alert, is it low? And then one of the other things too, like what we did when we went to Puerto Rico one time, which isn't considered, still you don't need a passport to go, but it was some years ago. The person who the homeowner that we rented, they had a book inside of the home, and the book actually told you um, these areas do not go to.
Mm.
They may look nice, they may look beautiful. Do not go down the street. Do not do this. And they were very specific. And I mean, it was 3 levels of security to get into this home. You had to get through a gate. You had to get through like another, what do they call it? The something room, the panic room. You had to get through another gate. They had spikes on the house. They had a whole another door that connected the bedrooms. And these people are not telling you in this book just to tell it to you or whatever. They're telling you, yes, come, enjoy. But at the same time, you have to really be safe, because every country is not the same. It's like, if you come to New York versus, DC versus certain areas of California, whatever it is, every area is different. And so some of the areas that may look absolutely beautiful abroad could really, you could be in a bad situation. So you just want to be cautious and just look at the State Department, website and say, okay, what's going on in this country at this time? Are they having a lot of wars? What's going on? Or if it's some other stuff going on. So just um, do your
But
research.
I'm saying with you two young ladies, y'all been doing it so long. It's like second nature. Do you ever find yourself being too comfortable?
I have. I definitely have. Like the guy that I met at my hotel bar, I went to lunch with him and his friend, and he drove me there. And it's like I shouldn't have gotten that man's car. I know I shouldn't have did that, but I did, and I was safe. I survived. I was
You know they made that movie Hostel. Be careful now.
Listen, she
But
tells me stuff after the fact. Thank God.
But I will say one thing to my brothers. I know, like in the States, it's like I don't tuck my chain. Like that's a sign of weakness. Don't feel ashamed to like tuck your chain, to take it off if you're in certain neighborhoods. Don't just walk down the street at nighttime. If you're going somewhere at nighttime, Uber, door, Uber. Like don't just walk around freely. I think we have to put our pride to the side sometimes and just do what's smart.
Nikki, I know one of the things when we while you was gone, we had, text each other. One of the things that you were very proud to tell me was how when you are traveling, the culture is there, hip hop is there.
Oh yeah.
You want to speak to that?
Yeah, Silke can probably attest to it too because she just came back. Tell them where you went for your birthday.
I went to Dubai for my birthday.
Yeah. So she's doing, she does it on another level. She goes.
So explain now, someone that knows a little bit about Sharia. You're talking to someone that knows a little bit about it. Explain uh, when you went to Dubai, what they tell you to do and what you shouldn't do.
So it's interesting. In Dubai was probably the first time I was like assaulted, like by somebody just in my hotel. It's definitely women. We you do have to be careful of how you dress when you're there, not to wear anything too revealing. Um, I literally was going to dinner in my hotel. I had on jeans and a like a bodysuit that like tucks in, so it's like a shirt, but that tucks in my pants. And this man got on the elevator with me and tried to like fill me up.
Mm-hmm.
So the men there are very
Aggressive.
yeah, they're very aggressive. They're very entitled. They feel like they can throw money at anything. But yeah, you definitely have to be careful with how you dress. There isn't a lot of drinking available there.
Right.
We'll do coffee, hookah, that type of thing. So you definitely have to. That's one thing too. When you travel, don't. I always open myself up to wherever I'm going. Like I don't have any expectations. And because when we have expectations of what we want it to be, then we're setting ourselves up to be let down. So it's always great to just like open yourself up to whatever the experience may be, and receive it and accept the culture and the location and the people for who they are, and you'll definitely have a better time.
I want to say too, one of the things that our grandmother used to say, because my grandmother and grandfather, they traveled back in like the 70s. I mean, abroad, overseas, because we lived in Saudi, for years. One of the things my grandmother used to say is when you're in Rome, you do as the Romans, and everybody's heard that term. One of the things is that when you're traveling abroad and you're visiting these other countries, you want to make sure you observe whatever their culture is, their religion, their belief systems. A lot of times people, especially they haven't traveled before, you go somewhere and you don't really know. But you want to look around and observe, to say, okay, well, what are they doing?
You don't want to go to Dubai and got no shorty shorts on, huh?
Well, no, and then in Arab and a lot of Muslim countries, there's no drinking, there's no smoking. There's certain things that you just can't do. You may have to wrap your head if you're a woman. So you want to make sure you observe the laws of the land, because all the laws are different. Like what is observed in a country in the Middle East may be different from a European country. I was told that a lot of the European countries are more loose, they're more free. So some things aren't as rigid and as strict. And I know a lot of Black people move over to Europe because they said they don't like, the racism in the States. And so you'll see a lot of Black people moving abroad because they're like, it's very free, it's very relaxed. But then you have some countries that still aren't really used to Black people or African Americans, whatever you want to call yourself. But there are some countries that still are not used. Now we're all over the world, but there are still some countries and cultures that are still not used to.
Have you guys ever seen that type of biasness where, like you said, Nikki, a person will look at you and be like, "You're Black," but then when they realize, "Oh no, you're not just Black, you're American." Do you see like they just act a little different or try to impress you? Like, oh, you're American. I need to treat you a certain kind of way.
Silka, can you touch on that one?
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that several times. Where they'll look at you as just 9 times out of 10 they probably think we're like African or like from Africa somewhere or maybe the Caribbean and might look down upon us when they hear our accent or maybe we tell them where we're from because a lot of times people don't even know by the accent. They'll treat you with a little bit differently because it's like okay, if something happens to her.
What did they call you in Uganda with the little kids?
I can't remember what it's called. They basically called me a white person, basically. But I can't remember the
little
word.
kids in Uganda. She was like, what's that like the first? You like they were calling me the white person or
And I
whatever.
was like, I'm like you.
It was a name that they used. It was a term.
Yeah,
and it was really cute though. It was really cute. But yeah, I think we need to make sure that we observe whatever the law, like I said, of the land is. I'm noticing there are a lot of what do they call them, expats. There are a lot of people just moving too.
Yeah,
we're just moving.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I wanted to touch on too is like even though everybody's picking the same places, and I think that's more so because everybody's comfortable. So once someone goes there, they can tell you about it. Branch out like that. You have all these other places, but there are so many other places to go to. I notice like when we get on a trend, and so that is the trend and everybody wants to go and do this one trend, but there's so many other places to visit
You
and
guys,
to
you
experience.
guys that's on YouTube, the way that you subscribe to the channel is it's a logo in the bottom right corner of Let's Talk. All you gotta do is press that logo. That's how you subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. I always try to tell the best way to support what we're doing is to like, share, and subscribe. This is Nikki's show that she does every Wednesday
Wednesday. Yeah.
going forward, and we're talking about blacks traveling abroad. These two young ladies have extensive experience. So when are you due back, Silka? You're on business.
Yeah, I get back Friday. It's just a quick in and out trip, so I'll be back home Friday.
Yeah.
I mean, how is that like? You be like, oh. How many times you been to Miami, if you don't mind me asking?
Quite a few. I don't remember. I don't know off the top of my head, but quite a few. Quite a
Have
few.
you been there for leisure?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm
Yeah.
quite
But I
sure
mean, how many times you gonna visit Miami? Like she said earlier, you could take another trip somewhere else and get some stamps and your passport. How many times you gonna visit Miami? You
No,
know?
I asked that because I'm quite sure, Silka, you've been to places on business and kind of wish you was there a little bit longer to be
Yeah.
there on leisure. Is there
Yeah.
any places like that? Like, yo, I really wish I was here a little longer to enjoy the city, spend a little time, walk, get some of the air.
Yeah, Seattle. Seattle, I will say. That's where the company I work for, we're headquartered there. I've only been there once and it was for work. And I was like, oh my God, I love the city. I would live here, but it would fuck up my hair. My hair would be frizzy all the time. And there aren't that many black men. So, if it weren't for that, I would definitely live in Seattle.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
what's
That's why I looked at you and made that face. I'm like, Seattle.
typical black women. The first two things you care about is it ain't the men I was
No,
interested in and my hair.
but most people like it's funny she said Seattle because that was one of the places that our grandmother hated. She was like, it was dreary, it was dry, it was just like, oh yeah, because it's so she didn't like it at all.
I love it. It's just a really chill city. It's very walkable. The food is good. It is rainy. I hear this. I went in the winter, so yeah, it was very rainy. But I hear in the summertime it's beautiful. Like it's clear. It's sunnier then. But I really love the feel of the city. Like it's just real chill and relaxed, and
What's the
good food.
Nikki? What's the one place that you want to go for a week? What would be like the ideal spot? Like, just give me a week there.
A week.
A week,
So is it in the States or is it outside?
anywhere.
So if I go, I'm not gonna go for a week. But one of the places that I have always wanted to go to, and it'll probably be soon. Well, my mom wants to do Madagascar, so we're talking about like Madagascar and like at the bottom Tanzania and that type of thing. She wants to see the trees. But for me, outside of going to Africa, one of the places, well, I have two. Prague. A lot of people, they look at me like I'm crazy when I say Prague, because it doesn't have water, it doesn't have a beach, it doesn't have anything, but something is intriguing about Prague to me. The other place is the Great Barrier Reef. When we were younger, our grandfather used to have a map or a big, huge picture that he bought back in his office from Australia. So one of the things they showed the Great Barrier Reef, and they showed the different fish and the different, things that were in the water. So that's another place for me is Australia. So that's mine.
Silka, and this is for both of you young ladies. Have you ever been? And I know where you live, Silka. I think sometimes we don't take it all in as well as you, Nikki, where you live at now. We don't take it all in and understand like the historical aspect of where we live at sometimes. Have you ever been to a place and be like, wow, I'm really at this place that has like historical value? Like a person may be in Jerusalem or somewhere and just be
Hmm.
like, yo, this is, an old city, historical value for people that may believe in religions or so forth. Is it any places like that?
For me, the funny thing is, I'll figure it out after I get back. Crazy part, like I'll be there and I'll, be experiencing it and everything, and then after I get back, I'll be like, oh, I was like, because I'll see something or hear something. One of my, I'm sorry, Quentin, you said it's like a historical factor. I'm sorry. One of the last things, so one of my goals is to do all of the world wonders. So it kind of tells on what you were saying. So just recently, a couple of years ago, I went to Chichen Itza. So that's one of the world wonders. So I said, oh, well, I said, so I should just make it a point to try to get to every one. So when you're there, I didn't even know at the time I was there. And I don't know what I was thinking about. I think it was just because it was a crazy trip. But then when I got back, I was like, oh, now I need to go to Brazil, and now I need to go to Peru. And, so all of these things. And I think when you're actually there and you see the historical part or the side of it, it's like an all factor. Because, you see a lot of times people see things on TV and they see it on the internet. But when you're actually there and you're in that moment, and that's the beauty of traveling too, because when you're actually in that moment, sometimes you do put your phone down. You don't really share everything with everybody because you're gonna miss that moment. There are times, and I am a phone, I'm stuck to my phone, but there are a lot of times you just have to really experience the moment. That's the beauty of traveling.
Silka?
I would say, off the top of my head, when I was in Kenya, I went and met with the Maasai tribe. I hope I'm not
Mm,
pronouncing it incorrectly.
you did. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, and so just seeing them and just hearing so much about them, and I think they're probably one of the most well-known tribes in Africa, that we see, and we see how high they jump and how tall and lean the men are, and their beads and their garb. And so going to meet with them it was pretty impactful for me. Um, Stepping foot just on the motherland the first time was like impactful for me. But I find that I'll literally find that anywhere. Like I'll be in Georgia or West Virginia, and
Yeah.
I will appreciate the history that was on whatever land that I'm standing on as
Yeah.
well. Like
Yeah, I
I
think
think.
I asked that because I'm a reader and I read history. So I always like Nikki, I'm the same way as that you drive past somewhere or you go somewhere and then you be like, oh, I was just there.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
this is what happened here during this time, and sometimes you don't take in a moment. Like I remember years ago when I met people that never been to New York City. I was like, you never been to New York City, but you don't you take for granted when you're in those areas.
Hmm.
Do.
Mm-hmm.
how other people from all across the world view those areas. So, ladies, is there anything else that we need to discuss before we close? I mean, I think that we touched on everything.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, do your research. A lot of times there are travel deals. A lot of times people they want to let somebody else do it. You know, there are certain days when you go to buy your tickets when you're traveling abroad that they're cheaper than others. There's a certain amount of months that you have, you know, before you take your trip. They say if you purchase tickets to fly out or whatever, that the rates will be lower. And just be open to experiencing other cultures and other foods and other environments, and enjoy yourself. And when you're there, you know, if you don't know anything, it's okay, but it's always good to ask questions, look around, see what other people are doing. And it really, I think the one thing about traveling too is it opens your mind. It expands, you know, your thought process. You can see it on TV, you can read it in a book, whatever, but it opens you up. It says, oh, there's more to life than just going to work every day on day, you know, than to just buying a pair of shoes all the time. They're really, and then you have a greater appreciation for your life. I'm gonna be very honest with you. When you travel outside to some of the countries and you really see how other people live, and it's not saying that all of them live, because some of them, then it makes you feel some kind of way like you're a peasant. But then you have some countries that you go to and you have such a great appreciation for how you live when you get back. And that's another thing too. And just recently, you know, with the earthquakes and different things that are going on in Haiti, you know, when you already see how certain people live, and then you're like, oh my God, you know, and then you have another level of devastation, you know, you understand how grateful you should be, you know, when you come home to your home, whatever your home may be, you know, when you have your job, if they're gonna, you just have a greater appreciation for life. You want to give back in different ways, because you understand that everybody was, you know, born into this world with different things going on. But I think that's the one thing for me. When you travel, you have a greater appreciation for your own life. So,
Yeah. I agree with that. And just to, I guess, my little closing statements. I think my passion is um, viewing and experiencing Black culture in many forms all over the world. Is one of my greatest passions. Like Nikki mentioned Haiti. I've been to Haiti multiple times. One of the most beautiful places, the most beautiful people I've been to, the best food. So don't somewhere that we look, some people may look down upon or just exit out as like, oh, that's not safe. I would never go there. Be open to new experiences because
mm-hmm,
I mean, there's just so much to offer. And that's probably, and I don't even know why I didn't think of that. That's probably the place where I went to and realized like the history here,
mm-hmm,
our people, and everything that we've done, how powerful we are, just our stories and how extensive they are. So just be open to new experiences, learn different cultures, and you'll learn so much about yourself when you travel,
mm-hmm,
when you
mm-hmm.
get outside of your own comfort zone, when you learn about definitely experiencing Blackness all over the world. You learn so much about yourself, so just
Yeah.
open yourself up for it.
One of the things Silke touched on was like one of our favorite like Anthony Bourdain was like our dude. Like, and then, you know, because he would just go places, he was just himself. And it was just not, you know, that, and what's the other one? Bizarre Foods. When you go to these different places, like Anthony Bourdain and the Bizarre Foods. But the other thing she was saying, and what you touched on before, Quentin, was how Black people, Black Americans, how we touch different parts of the world. And we don't, like you were saying, I told Quentin, I said, when we were just in Mexico, rap music, like the hip hop culture, you know, is so influential everywhere, everywhere. And it's like amazing to be riding a camel somewhere and there, I forget, I guess it was NBA something or the other, and my daughter had to tell me. I was like, I don't even know who it is. But and one of the other Black girls was sitting on, so she was like, wait a minute, are they playing such and such? Couldn't speak a lick of English. But that hip hop culture and community, it is so welcomed, and a lot of people in other countries are so open to it. So that's something that like she said, just seeing how we live life in other countries and cultures. So I think that's like dope. Like she
Agreed.
said, it's dope.
Appreciate you, young ladies. Appreciate you guys in the chat. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Um, Thanks everybody for joining us tonight while we have this discussion, because I think that this discussion is needed because it is on the uptick. Like we said, we are traveling more now than ever. Definitely
Mm-hmm.
Of the generation before us, and most likely the generation after us is going to travel way more than we travel. We already know the kids nowadays.
Yes.
They think different, they move different. They're more open to a lot of different things. So we need to be able to prepare them for what they're going to face in the future, as well as as we say, pay it forward and give it back to them the
Mm-hmm.
best way we know how. So with that, everybody stay safe and stay on Silka, and everybody stay safe, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's show. Please continue to join us here for conversations on hot topics, interviews with special guests, and our featured programs such as the Poetry Corner, where you can hear dope poets from around the country creating that poet cafe vibe, and Crown Rules, our virtual book club on love, intimacy, and healthy relationships. Let's talk. We are everywhere you want to be. Follow us on YouTube at Let's Talk, Facebook at Let's Talk, and on Instagram at Let's Talk 1931. Have a suggestion? Give us a call at 570-795-4283. Or for business inquiries, please email us at ltalk5600@gmail.com. Let's talk. I wore to you, you wore to me.